Hey, my name is Ahmad Lyons, and I will be presenting Precise Forward on the brain science of justice, brains on trial. In part one of Brains on Trial with Alan Alda, it begins with a fictional but realistic courtroom case scenario of a newly turned 18-year-old Jimmy Moran who participated in a convenience store robbery with two friends. The robbery ends with the store owner wife being shot in the head but survives. As the trial unfolds, the episode explores how neuroscience may reshape the way court evaluate intention, guilt, memory, and remorse. Alda explains that scientists are trying to look inside the brain to see what people are thinking, raising major ethical questions about whether brain scans may one day influence sentencing or become informative pieces of truthfulness. The trial becomes not only a legal conflict but also a platform for debating how far science should go in relation to our Fifth Amendment rights. The first segment, Steal the Ring or Watch Experiment, demonstrates how MRI technology may detect lying or mapping memory formation. Nerve cell activity increase when Alda tries to lie about stealing the ring, which the scan captures and determines that Alda did in fact steal the ring. This means that what we experience could be forever stamped in our minds, and when asked to recall the truth of the image or scenario will represent itself in our minds with excited nerve activity regardless if we are trying to hide or lie about it. Although this is a controlled experiment, this suggests a future where internal mental state could be evidence. As an important topic of bias in relation to how people recall events when they are scared or under stress and mention victims, witnesses, and perpetrators may recount memories inaccurately during fast-paced and or traumatic moments. Alda discussed how fear can distort perception or memories and how this creates challenging for jurors who have to rely heavily on eyewitnesses' testimonies that elaborate on the impact of implicit bias, suggesting that unconscious racial assumption may make jurors less likely to believe the testimony of explanations of non-white defendants. As one expert pointed out, bias does not announce itself, it hides in the brain. This in turn impacts appropriate sentencing, which is already disproportionated for non-white defendants. In part two of Brains on Trial with Alan Alda, the episode pivots to the sentencing of Jimmy Moran. He has been found guilty of armed robbery, aggravated assault in the first degree, but not guilty for attempted murder. A few members of Jimmy's community come to the stand to vouch for his character, implying that he is immature and that he is a victim of his circumstances. Neuroscientists support this theory of lack of brain maturation in relation to his age and gender. Alda said, as far as our community is concerned, though he's over 18, so his brain age is irrelevant. One of the most compelling scientific discoveries in this episode is the difference between adolescent male and female brains. Alda goes in the National Institute of Health with Jay Jed and his children to explore the adolescent brain. Neuroscience suggests that teenager brains are still under construction, and this construction follows different timelines in part for men and women. Because of these different male adolescents may have more pronounced impulsive toward risk taking, while females might develop certain control or connectivity earlier. This is the case of Jed Darter, as she is about 2 years ahead of her time in brain development. This raises a key takeaway that gender brain development can complicate how we evaluate responsibility. This raises the question if the law should account for these nuance development trajectories rather than treating all young adults the same. Alda explores how adolescents behave differently from adults, especially in high pressure or group situations. Neuroscientific research shows that teenagers are more impulsive and are more sensitive to peer influence because the brain region responsible for judgment and self control are still developing. The drive through the yellow light experiment from Temple University reveals how young people about the same age as Jimmy and his two friends take more risks when they believe their peers are watching. This experiment suggests that Jimmy's age and social circle may have shaped his behavior during the robbery. These findings suggest considering whether young defendants should be judged by adult standards when their brains are still in development. Lastly, Alda explores the neuroscience of remorse. Jimmy expresses remorse for his actions after the store clerk impact statement. Jimmy head hangs low and he sheds a few tears. Alda explores what remorse could look like with an MRI of an actress who can pull up emotions. The actress was able to raise feelings of happiness and disgust, and based on her neurological response pattern, the system could determine what happiness looks like in her brain. The possibility of pulling up emotion of remorse in a defendant's brain would be hard to tell if it were an honest feeling because essentially they could be acting too. Despite all these scientific considerations, the episode makes clear that the fact of Jimmy Moran's case cannot be ignored. Thomas Quinn, the second robbery, stated in his testimony that Jimmy threatened the store owner by saying, "Give me the money or else," which was a direct threat. The tragic shooting of the store owner wife fulfills that threat. Even if his adolescent brain was still developing, Jimmy's words escalated the danger and contributed to the harm that occurred. When trying the significant scientific insights back to the case, it becomes evident that neuroscience can help explain why Jimmy acted impulsively, but it cannot erase the consequences of his choices because his threat or else directly preceded and enabled the violence. Jimmy fits within the category of offenders who should receive a harsher sentence beyond 12 years and should be found guilty of attempted murder. The law must hold him accountable for the outcome that his own words helped set in motion, not based on his upbringing, potential self, or gender, age, brain development.